listening to Best of the Best with Steve and Jeff.
And here we are, part 4 of our Zelda Best of the Best series. The Legend of Zelda is our focus. We've talked about console games. We talked about console games twice. We've talked about handheld games. And joining me once again, Steve is with me. Steve, how's it going?
Not bad, Jeff.
And what we've got here is time to start talking about, I'd call them the dregs of the Zelda community. We're looking at non-canon Zelda games.
Non-canon Zelda games are pretty much Zelda games that aren't considered as part of the main series. They're fun little things sometimes that more or less do their own thing.
I'm looking at some of these titles. I haven't even heard of some of these games.
You're looking at the Tingle games, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't even know what to think about this. So, Steve, why don't you take me through this? What the hell? Tingle?
Yes, he doesn't deserve his own games. I agree with you 100% of that. There are 3 games that haven't even been released in North America. Mostly in Europe. One of them's only in Japan. One was freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupeeland.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Don't need to dignify this anymore. Alright, tell me what it's all about.
Tingle more or less collecting as many rupees as he can to build his own Tower of Babel. You heard me. Tower of Babel. Tingle needs so many rupees or else he'll die.
Let him die.
I know. Especially since he's already got more than enough rupees, because he took us for everything he could during the Wind Waker stuff, where he friggin' well charged us 400 rupees each for a map to save the world. Jerk.
Yeah, and it doesn't end there, because we've got another Tingle game, Tingle's Balloon Fight. No, he does not get his own music. Tingle doesn't deserve his own music. Carry on, Steve.
You remember the long level in Balloon Fight where you start in one section and you basically have to work your way left and survive and try to get to the next part? It's like a side-scrolling level.
Yes, I hated those levels.
I know, so did I. I preferred the one where you have to kill all the enemies to move on to the next level. That was my favorite. But that's the second game.
Well, that sucks. I mean, come on, if they wanted to use a Nintendo character to bring back Balloon Fight, why not make it a Bobo's Balloon Fight? Oh god, not again! Is he gone? Oh, force of habit. Okay, Steve, carry on.
And then the third game, and pardon me if I say this wrong, my Japanese is terrible. Irazuki Tingle no Koi no Balloon Trip. Apparently it's not the same as the Balloon Fight, apparently. But besides that, I have no idea what it's about. And I don't really care for it enough. I don't like Tingle. I hate Tingle. I wish he would die and then he would never come back.
Then why don't you just die already? Just give up and die.
Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna go out on a limb in here and say this. Tingle is the worst Nintendo character of all time.
What about Slippy? He's pretty bad, too.
Ah! I'm hit! Are you okay? Doggone it! Don't worry. Slippy's here. Ah!
No, Tingle is the worst. I know you're gonna try to defend this here. I know you're gonna try to point out somebody else. No, Tingle is the worst of all time.
I'm not going to argue too much because I don't really care for him that much more. I'm just pretty sure that they forced enough other bad characters on us, too.
I'm the best! Hey! Listen!
Man, this is even more frustrating than the time I accidentally turned off my Animal Crossing game.
Hey, what did I tell you about resetting?
I was waiting for you this time, you mole.
Oh, well. Besides, there are worse things out there than Tingle. There's not really much point in holding off on this anymore. I dreaded this. I haven't looked forward to this. I probably don't deserve to have as much of an opinion of this as people who actually bought and played these games, because I'm not willing to spend $100 for a game that is terrible, and probably closer to $500 for a system to play these terrible games on. I am talking about the CDI Zelda games.
No! It burns!
Those that should not be named.
Yep, that would be the Wand of Gamelon, the Faces of Evil, and Zelda's Adventure.
So where do we begin here? Honestly, this was during a very experimental time in video gaming history, especially considering this was where the whole CD format was just getting introduced into video games. And of course, they sent the flagship Nintendo character. I realize Mario is the flagship character, but Zelda is just as big. They send this franchise over to these games.
Well, sort of. Nintendo got into it with Philips Entertainment to try to make something, but then they realized that it just wasn't working out, so they kind of got out of the boat with them. But part of contractual thing was they paid to use Zelda and Link and Mario for another game, but we're not going to get into that one. They paid for the Zelda and Link, so they're going to use Zelda and Link in 3 of their games. It was terrible.
Join me, Link, and I will make your face the greatest in Korodai, or else you will die.
In all honesty, I can't say I've ever played these games. Like I said, I'm not spending that kind of money to play a game which has been basically called one of the worst things that could ever happen. But I've watched the Let's Plays. We'll take it slowly and we'll go through them.
Okay, so why don't we start off with one of the games then?
Let's make it a little bit easier now. Well, we can start with 2 of them. Zelda, the Wand of Gamelon, and Link, the Face of Evil. They're both practically the same game, really. They were released in October 1993. They were developed by Animation Magic, and it plays similar to Zelda 2, with side-scrolling platforming elements. In either case, Link saves Zelda in a strange place, or Zelda saves Link in a strange place. They're like a platform level, really. You jump from place to place, and you go through this little village trying to collect items and keys and other stuff, and kill enemies. As you go along, you collect these things, and eventually you collect the item, and you face Ganon in the end. Controls on these games are supposed to be very difficult. Music is subpar, and the plot is very flimsy.
And that's just the gameplay. You can't forget about the cutscenes.
With awful voice acting and even worse animation.
Oh my goodness, this is awful!
OneUp.com calls them freakish, and Game Trailers calls them an absolute joke. And these did look pretty bad. They're horrible. They are beyond horrible. Wind Waker is whimsical. The 3D Zelda games are epic. These are awful. They look and they sound so terrible that they make you just cringeworthy.
Your Majesty, Ganon and his minions have seized the island of Korodai.
How can we help?
It is written, only Link can defeat Ganon.
Great! I'll grab my stuff!
There is no time. Your sword is enough.
How about a kiss? For luck?
You've got to be kidding.
Yeah, it's safe to say why these are often found in, YouTube poop collaborations, or just as cited as some of the worst examples of voice acting history. Even worse than Resident Evil, for God's sake, and that's saying a lot.
Jill, here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you.
Worse than Mega Man 8?
Let's do it! I'm Clown Man.
Maybe not that far, but it's still that bad.
Well, then you got the third one. This one was different. This was called Zelda's Adventure and was released in June 94. It was developed for the CDI by a different company called Viridis. Unlike the previous games, it's based on the top-down Zelda style seen in Legend of Zelda and A Link to the Past. And just from watching the Let's Plays of this, it didn't actually look that bad, really. It looked like it could be interesting. Like, it's got 8 levels, 8 dungeons. In this game, Ganon has kidnapped Link and stolen the 7 celestial signs, creating an age of darkness in the kingdom of Tolamak. Zelda has to collect the signs to defeat Ganon and save Link. It sounds like it could have been pretty good. The plot is a little bit strange when you consider that it has nothing to do with Hyrule, but what can you do in that regard? That's licensing rights and everything else. But it could maybe have been pretty good, but there's problems with this game. There's a whole bunch of problems. But one of the ones that is very jarring, which makes it so much different than every other Zelda game, something that happens here and never anything else, instead of using animated cutscenes, this game featured live-action cutscenes.
And so it was that Ganon, Lord of Darkness, had taken over Tolamak. He had stolen the treasured celestial signs and captured Link.
Oh God, no.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're terrible. They're beyond terrible. They're like the live-action you see in SpongeBob.
Not bad for a creature with no vertebrae.
Oh my lord. Other criticism for this game is due to its arbitrary and its illogical design. It's bad visuals, it's nearly non-existent music, it's high difficulty, it's atrocious load times, and it's cumbersome controls, which make it pretty much one of the worst Zeldas ever. And if its controls are that bad, it's got to be even worse than the first 2 games, which were bad enough.
So really, we've just been blasted by 6 terrible examples of Zelda. Honestly, it makes you sort of think, why? Why even bother lending out this franchise to any other party to work with it? Or, in the case of it, why even use some franchise characters that nobody likes and think, hey, let's create a game about it?
I don't know. The CDI ones were probably like a corporate thing. And Tingle, he did have a lot of popularity in Japan. I'm not sure why, but whatever. Not everything that's not done by Nintendo is terrible. Some of the stuff is pretty good. Some of it's a little bit of iffy, but mostly it tried, and it did a pretty decent job with it. It's hard to capture the same magic that you find in a Zelda game.
Right, so I'm going to take us on a different sort of track. I'm going to give us some examples of stuff that's been done by people outside of Nintendo that has actually captured its own sort of celebrity, its own sort of fame. And we're going to go to new media for this one, because this shows you what you can do with Nintendo characters outside of the normal realm. And I'm talking about Bend Round.
This was based around the Majora's Mask game, right?
Yes, this one was based around Majora's Mask, and this one is a creepypasta. Creepypasta is this website that focuses on just telling horror stories. And really, if you've seen There Will Be Brawl, that has its dark elements, but Bend Round is pure horror. What ends up happening here is you have a gamer who is looking to get some N64 games. He goes to this one sale and finds an unlabeled copy of Majora's Mask, which simply the word Majora written on it. And so he goes to buy the game from the person selling it. The person says it's free, take it. And so as he's taking the game away, the person says, "Goodbye, Ben." Now, Jaducible, the person who bought the game, is thinking he's saying goodbye then and doesn't think anything of it. Takes it home, puts the game in, and that's where things get freaking weird and creepy. Because there's a save file on there that says Ben. So, in his normal fashion, he starts up a link file, goes through, but he finds that a lot of the NPCs, a lot of the characters you run into while playing the game, kept calling him Ben for some reason. So, thinking it might solve the problem, he deletes the Ben file. And to really put this in the terms of the show,
holy shit, dude.
So with something like this, he basically ends up being haunted by a haunted version of the game, and it gets a lot crazier from there.
I will eat your heart.
Sounds like The Ring. That's a lot like The Ring, actually. That was one spooky movie. Not spooky, but had its moments. This sounds even worse because it sounds like an interactive version of it.
Well, the thing to look at with this, too, is typically with a creepypasta, you're seeing, like, text-based stories. What made this that much more powerful was this was a story that incorporated video files and actually showed what looked like real gameplay from this game. And a lot of the elements that come into play here, you saw scenes that were taken from the game and almost distorted to unrecognizable fashions. You saw, well, you know the Elegy of Emptiness.
Oh, yeah.
And how it creates that sort of Link statue.
Yep.
The way that the Link statue is treated in this story, if you were to play Majora's Mask after reading it, you cannot look at that thing the same way again.
Wow. Just wow.
Yes. What you've got here, a lot of the elements that come into play, it uses actual music from the game, actual graphics from the game. It even takes some of the songs from the game and reverses them, playing it in sort of an almost Exorcist-like backwards music, which, it just makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck.
Once again, wow.
So for me, the thing that I would say here, if you're looking for a good scare, go check this out. this is something that shows you that somebody can take a source material like the Zelda franchise and turn it in a way that the series wasn't meant to go, but still make it something that is enjoyable.
Which isn't bad. Like, if you're a fan of fan fiction, or any other stuff where the fans of the show who are taking the show and basically doing it as an homage to the show, you're not hurting it. You're, in fact, actually just pushing it towards a newer audience, which isn't a bad thing either. You want people to enjoy it, too. Like, if they're going to enjoy it and they're going to put their own little spin on it, more power to them, as long as they do it right, unlike CDI, which we'll never mention ever again.
Yes, that which shall not be named will not be named again, but we've still got more to talk about. It's amazing just all of the ground that there is to cover in this series, and we've got a 5th part that will be coming up. This series is going to have an ending, I promise you, it will end, but this 5th part's going to focus on other medias. And that's going to be pretty exciting, Steve.
It'll cover some of the more obscure things, and then the other ones that everybody knows and either laughs and enjoys or shakes their head in disbelief.
Well, I think this clip will pretty much tell exactly what we're referring to here.
This is the Triforce of Wisdom, Link. The evil wizard Ganon has the Triforce of Power. Whoever gets both Triforces will rule this land forever. You must help me, Link.
Hey, for you, Zelda, anything.
Nice job, hero.
Hey, excuse me, Prince.
Yep, we're talking about that in the next one.
So we're going to finish off our Best of the Best series with other Zelda media, and that'll be happening in our next episode of Best of the Best.
Game on. Don't worry, we have all the codes.
1111. Access denied.
1112.
Access denied.
1113.
Access denied.
1114.
Access denied.
You're listening to Game On GameandTrain.com.
This door is a bitch.